gathering outside the Lahore home of the former Prime Minister. Police who are about to arrest Imran Khan and have blocked nearby roads. As well as some of his supporters who have just heard the news that he's been sentenced to 3 years in prison. Earlier, a court in Islamabad found Imran Khan guilty of corruption when he was in office, a sentence his supporters say is politically motivated and intended to stop him being able to stand in the upcoming election.
जब तक ये पैगाम आप तक पहुंचेगा, मुझे ये अरेस्ट कर चुके होंगे और मैं जेल में हूँगा.
By the time you hear this statement, they will have arrested me. I've only one appeal. Don't sit silently at home.
In a recorded statement anticipating his arrest, Mr. Khan called for people to protest, as they did when he was last arrested in May.
पुरअमन एहतजाज आपने करते रहना है जब तक.
You have to continue peaceful protests until you get your rights, and the biggest fundamental right, which is to elect your government of choice through votes. Do not allow any occupying group to rule the country like they are doing today.
A call for action that some in Peshawar followed and were then promptly arrested. Lessons seemingly learned after nationwide protests against Mr. Khan's arrest in the spring, where Pakistan's army headquarters and a senior officer's home were attacked, and a dramatic crackdown led to thousands of arrests of his supporters.
Do you think, in a sense, his great popularity has been the undoing of him, the fact his supporters were willing to go so far?
His biggest mistake was that he simultaneously took on the political rivals as well as the security establishment. And he thought that he could, by cheap power, could remove the government and force the security establishment to hold free and fair election, allow him to come back to power. And that brinkmanship has boomeranged, and that's what he's paying for.
What impact do you think what's happened today might have on the political stability in Pakistan?
It will further destabilize the political situation in Pakistan, because the elections have become much more questionable. And also the situation at the moment, Pakistan is going through the worst crisis probably in its history. It is not just about the political crisis. It is facing a serious economic crisis. It also facing an institutional crisis. It is the crisis of the state.
Imran Khan denies the charges and says he will appeal today's sentence. But even if he's successful, he needs to fight off over 150 more cases brought against him since his removal as Prime Minister last year. All part, his supporters claim, in trying to prevent him from being able to win power in Pakistan again.
Well, joining me now is Syed Zulfi Bukhari, a former special assistant to Imran Khan when he was Pakistani Prime Minister. Thanks so much for coming in. I mean, have you managed to speak to him? Do you know where he is? Do you know how he is?
Well, we've come to know that he's arrived into Attock prison, which is not actually where he's supposed to go. His orders are for another prison, but it's been changed last minute to one in a different area. But that's where he is. That's where he's kept.
I mean, this was no surprise to him, was it?
He was well aware that he was going to get arrested and disqualified sooner or later. It was a question of which day. But to be disqualified in a hearing where his legal team wasn't even allowed to put forward an argument, his lawyer's PA clerk was abducted on the way to court. So you can see what kind of sham judgment this is. I
mean, he keeps protesting his innocence on all charges, but he has admitted to selling some state items, which he argued he was allowed to do. But it is a strange look for a man who has fought on a sort of anti-corruption ticket, isn't it?
Well, the state items that we're talking about are gifts from other heads of states. And what it is your job, whichever politician it may be, myself or him or anyone, has to declare those. Once you declare them and you pay a 50% or a 20%, whatever the law at the time was, of the valuation, they become your possession and asset, and that's what he did. He declared them on his tax statements, he declared them on his wealth statement.
I mean, they allege that he declared them late, didn't they?
Well, he declared them when the filing was due of it, and he paid the whole due tax on it, and then later they became his asset and he sold it.
When he was last arrested, it triggered violent protests on the streets. But we know many of his supporters were themselves arrested and detained at that stage. And the party has been decimated, MPs giving up or defecting. This is a very different situation for him now, isn't it?
Yes, well, there's fear spreading across the entire country. And after the arrest, more than 13,000 people in prison, torture going on, women abducted, children who, if they can't get the leader, they'll pick up his wife or his sister or daughter, whoever. So there's obviously this fear factor which has come into people's minds, and that's what they wanted. But he knew he was going to get disqualified and arrested, and as the caretaker comes in, elections are around the corner. This was the only way.
You don't accept that some of the MPs themselves have lost faith in Imran Khan?
No, I mean, if you look at the main names or the bigger names that have left Imran Khan, they haven't left their house since, and they look miserable. So obviously they were forced to leave him. None of them have come out smiling that we're doing it over our policy. They were practically tortured and forced to leave him.
But what happens now? He said in that video to his supporters, do not sit silently at home. He wants people to come out. There isn't much evidence that people are coming out, certainly not in numbers.
Well, not in perhaps the numbers, because, like I said, how fear has spread across. But there have been flash protests, especially in KP. In Punjab, there's police everywhere. Anyone who's coming out is getting arrested. So nobody wants to be in prison. And Imran Khan has given that message that don't get arrested. I don't want any kind of violence.
This conviction means he cannot run for public office anytime soon. In the next 5 years, they're saying. Is this the beginning of the end for Imran Khan? Well,
this is just a session court. This judge was brought in just a week ago. We raised our voice against him. He's illegally, he shouldn't actually be the judge in this case. He went on leave after today. This was his last day before his holiday. So he wasn't brought in for a purpose, but where our legal team is going to, tomorrow on Monday, appeal in the High Court and then ultimately in the Supreme Court, which we know that, the law will hopefully prevail.
So not over?
It's not over.
Mr. Bukhari, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.